Marvel Zombies was cool. I've heard a lot of people say that it flew under their radar, which is a shame because I really enjoyed that show. And I gave it a positive review on my second channel, The Nando Cut. Go subscribe now. But I never did like a proper breakdown, so I want to try something new. It is real simple. Here are 64 things I liked about Marvel Zombies. Now we're going to talk about all these things in the order that they appeared on the show, and this is full spoilers. If you haven't seen the show, go watch it. It's 4 30-minute episodes. Okay, so things I liked about Marvel Zombies. Number 1, it blows my mind that Marvel Zombies is the closest thing we've gotten to a Young Avengers anything, outside of that cruise ship video. The chemistry here between Kamala, Kate, and Riri was exactly what I wanted from this kind of team, and I really pray they make it into live action. Number 2, this is a small one, but the design of Riri's arc reactor is slightly different, and I cannot explain why, but it makes the heart look way clearer to me here than it did in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Number 3, one of my favorite ways to build out a character quickly is to give them a thing they like. Make it seem like they have a life outside of fighting crime or zombies or whatever. Whether it's music or a pet, or in this case, some sort of connection to a pop culture fandom like Star Trek, makes the characters feel real. And on top of that, using Star Trek to connect Riri and Kamala makes perfect sense. Riri as an engineer and Kamala as a fan of the spacefaring superhero would both gravitate towards Star Trek. Also, way to go Disney for not using this as an opportunity to cross-promote Star Wars. Number 4. Okay, so this is our first detour from the general vibe of the video being, hey, isn't that a fun little idea, to one of the coolest things Marvel has done in years. There will be a few of those. Carol Danvers is one of those characters that could break this series. She's too powerful, and if she went zombie, she would easily be able to steamroll pretty much everyone we bump into over these 4 episodes, especially in the first 2. So taking her out of the fight makes sense, but this presents a problem. When you do this in superhero media, you run the risk of punishing powerful characters for being too powerful. They don't get the screen time they deserve because they always need to be knocked out. Professor X frequently falls into this trap. He is a main player in 3 Gen 1 X movies, 4 Gen 2 X movies, and Logan. And in 5 of them, he is sidelined in the 3rd act, either knocked out or under mind control or dead, which means he never really gets to contribute, show how cool he can be. Carol risks being one of those characters, but luckily Zeb and the team decided to justify benching Carol by giving her one impossibly cool moment early on where we learn that she is locked in an eternal battle with a powerful character. The visuals were nuts, the name, the Valley of the Broken Gods, exactly what a character like Carol deserves. Number 5. And then I also loved that this is another Marvel cartoon that remembered that the Eternals exist. First Kingo and What If, and now the return of Icarus. Makes total sense to throw him into a zombie story since he is one of the only heroes who cannot be zombified, and this Icarus has not gone through the events of Eternals yet, which I think means his goal is to protect the world because there's still a Celestial in it. Makes you wonder what happened to the other Eternals, but they probably just got killed the normal way. Number 6. I was never thrilled with the idea that MCU Kamala Khan lost her embiggening powers, especially because, even if they'd never admit it, it felt like Marvel wanted to save those powers for Reed in First Steps. So they gave Kamala hard-like constructs. But outside of her show and the Marvels, we haven't seen her do much with that power, especially because for a big chunk of the Marvels, she wasn't supposed to use her power lest she be teleported. But what we saw was fine. Seemed like they were doing their best to replicate her embiggening using the constructs to create long legs and big fists. It was not until Marvel Zombies that we finally saw how exciting her powers can be, and it comes from the fact that they took Kamala's Mr. Fantastic powers away, but replaced them with Invisible Woman's. Kamala makes all kinds of cool force fields, she saves everyone in bubbles more than once, and she even eventually creates a giant scythe that mows all the zombies in half. So even though they took Kamala's original power away, I'm glad to see in Marvel Zombies that they gave her something that could be as dynamic. Number 7. God, the backgrounds in this show are gorgeous. So cool. I mean, there's not really much to say besides just these look great. Number 8. Haven't brought this one up yet, but I love how some of the jokes are executed in Marvel Zombies. Just like rock solid timing and delivery. Kate remembers she has the trick arrow. She calls out Zombie Carol. She shoots Carol. A beat. Confetti. A beat. Aw shit, vaporized. Love that rhythm. And this is probably mostly thanks to Zeb Wells being a comedy vet going back to the Robot Chicken days. Also, it's cool that Kate got vaporized. As much as I wanted to see more of her here, I like this feeling that pretty much anybody could die at any moment. Number 9. Okay, so Blade Knight is going to come up a lot. Let's start here. Moon Knight fans know the classic mission of the Fist of Khonshu is to protect the Travelers of the Night. The Moon Knight show didn't really get into that, since Moon Knight was mostly doing Indiana Jones stuff, but in the comics, he protects the little guys, especially the people who don't have anybody else looking out for them, the Travelers of the Night. And even though Kamala is definitely still wrapped up in a big cosmic story here, I love that Blade Knight is her protector as she travels through the night, playing a supporting role, living up to his creed. Number 10. Speaking of jokes that worked, love the exposition intro where Kamala explains how the bangles work and all Blade Knight says is, "Cool." And I didn't read it as dismissive either. It's just like, that's cool. I've seen a bunch of crazy stuff, so I'm not going to freak out, but also, good for you. And I have to give credit to Blade Knight voice actor Todd Williams, who does such a good Mahershala that he also took Mahershala's place in the later Invincible seasons. And this guy has some bizarre comic book credits in his IMDb. Besides Blade Knight and Titan, Williams was also Green Lantern on the Batwheels show, Finn's brother Rick in the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, and Mongol back in the Superman Returns game, which I had and remember liking even though the final boss is a tornado. Either way, good job, Todd. Number 11. This was easily the most impressed I was with the entire series. And yes, the animation was great and the story was fun, but bringing back the neurological agent from Black Widow felt like an absolutely genius move. Every episode has something like this, but this was the first one that made me genuinely gasp because of how clever and true to the universe it was. For people who forgot, about 2/3 of the way through Black Widow, we meet Melina Voskov, played by Rachel Weisz. She was the mom in the Deep Cover family, but we learn, besides being a spy, Melina is also a scientist working on some sort of neurological agent to control minds. At the time, she only used it on pigs, and then we never saw it again. So I was thrilled when it turned out the army of zombies blocking our hero's path to the S.H.I.E.L.D. base was actually the undead under the control of that same neurological agent. It felt like a completely reasonable evolution of that technology and something that made Melina's appearance special. No other character could give us an army of good guy zombies besides Druig, Loki, and Hela, and probably a bunch of others. Put them in the comments. But Marvel Zombies isn't just about taking all the new characters and throwing them into the zombie apocalypse. We're specifically following characters who would do something unusual. That is the fun of a series like this. Creativity. Number 12. Here's another opportunity to call out some actors giving it 110%. David Harbour has already proven he knows how to voice act a dopey super soldier from his role in Creature Commandos, and we knew he was already an electric Alexei in his What If episode from season 3. So I was not shocked that he was able to bring that same spirit into Marvel Zombies, but I'm always a little surprised by how well it works. And then Florence Pugh had a tougher job. Yelena isn't as, let's say, animated as Alexei is in live action. Her reactions are subtle, but I think Florence Pugh sold the performance here. She balances out Harbour's Alexei nicely. Number 13. Just a quick question looking ahead a little. It's weird that the Nova Corps are part of this plan, right? Or at least it's weird how it plays out, since we know that What If Zombies was set during Infinity War, and Marvel Zombies takes place 5 years later, meaning around 2023. But since it seems like the first act of Infinity War happened roughly the same way in this universe, Thanos destroyed the Asgardians, Thanos sends Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian to New York, doesn't that mean Thanos also wiped out Xandar, which appears to be where the Nova Corps are headquartered? So I imagine most of them are dead, and you kind of figure that's your third act twist. The heroes managed to send the message to the Nova Corps, but the Corps doesn't exist anymore, so the heroes need to solve the problem on their own. But spoilers for episode 3, apparently the Nova Corps is up and running, which seems hard to believe since not only were they decimated in 2018, they also practically all exploded during the finale of Guardians 1. So the timeline goes like this. 2014, Ronan kills a huge chunk of Nova Corps. 2014 to 2018, they rebuild. 2018, Thanos destroys an even bigger chunk of the Nova Corps and even takes the Power Stone, which means, unlike Ronan, he made it to the planet's surface and probably destroyed Central Command. And then, 2018 to 2023, they rebuild again. Which, good for them. I guess if you get massacred every few years, you get really good at standing up a new army. Number 14. Love the idea that we finally sort of get the Alexei versus Captain America fight that he has always been dreaming of. Sure, the odds were weighted heavily in Alexei's favor, although Cap got some good hits in, but still, it happened. Also, Cap spinning behind the shield was funny. Speaking of that, number 15. Was this the first MCU fastball special? I'm sure other characters have tossed other characters, but I can't think of a time it was as fastball-y. It feels like what's been holding us up is we don't have enough big guys and enough small guys. For a big guy, it would need to be like Ant-Man or a Hulk. And then for a small guy, I guess Druig? I don't know. They're all tall. Maybe Florence Pugh, she's pretty short. And there was a moment like this in the Endgame storyboards that didn't make it into the final film, even though it was awesome, which leads me to believe it's coming back somewhere down the line. Speaking of things written by Zeb Wells, I really expected Deadpool and Wolverine to put together the most well-known mutant team-up move, aka Circuit, since Colossus already existed in those movies, but I don't know, I'm guessing they're saving it for Doomsday? Maybe? But either way, Zombie Cap and Zombomination got there first. Number 16. I have seen almost 2 decades now of people hating on Marvel humor, which, if anything, feels like just weed-in humor that the Russos took and ran with. But there is some truth to the idea that in a Marvel movie, a serious moment is frequently undermined by a joke. It can be fun, but they maybe overdid it. So when Alexei started his speech, I was skeptical. He's gonna give a big speech about bravery and honor and then immediately get killed, or like the microphone's not gonna be on or something. But I was shocked when the speech ended with an end. No joke, a big explosion, and everyone in that moment took Alexei seriously. He hyped them up in a moment the series played completely straight, and I respect it. And I know what you're thinking. Really? Not screwing up the mood with a joke is a thing you liked? That's a low bar. Sure, but this is Alexei. He's a character built from the bottom up to be clowned on. But for some reason, Marvel Zombies is the only show or movie that treats Alexei like a super soldier with a hero complex and not a dad with a dorky suit. Number 17. Small one, but loved this lip flutter. Didn't need to do it, but they did, and I appreciate it. Number 18. Jesus Christ, Ghost rules in this. Like how Melina is an interesting character to watch navigate this particular apocalypse because she is clever, Ghost is a particularly dangerous zombie because of her superpowers. And it's not just because she can walk through stuff, but she can turn it on and off so quickly that Ghost can take down an entire squad of widows in like 12 seconds. And presumably, because being legless does not appear to be a deal breaker for the zombies, Ghost was not held back the same way that she was in Ant-Man and the Wasp because of her chronic pain. And if you're like, hey, if Ghost is so great, how did she get zombified anyway? If she knows what's happening, she should be able to be one of the tougher characters to turn. Well, and I really like this detail too, the outburst starts at the climax of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Zombie Janet and a then zombie Hank come out of that quantum tunnel, and who is one of the first people they see? Ghost. So it's reasonable to say that the zombie outbreak was such a big issue early on because Patients 1 and 2 were size changers, and Patient 3 was able to walk through walls. Doesn't matter how good your base is. If Zombie Ghost wants to get in, she can. Number 19. Back to Blade Knight. I did not play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, but I watched enough playthroughs to recognize a Zandatsu when I see one. It's a move that Raiden uses to slice through his enemies at super speed so he can get to their yummy nanomachines which he eats or something. Like I said, I never played it. But man, the Zandatsu looked cool. And the moment from the Marvel Zombies trailer that sold me on this whole thing was Blade Knight busting out a Zandatsu on Zombie Ghost. After parrying way too many attacks from Ghost, Blade does that thing where you use your instincts and senses to figure out where your opponent is going to teleport to next and get there first. And yes, I know it's not teleporting, but it's like the same kind of thing. And even though Blade Knight could very easily just decapitate Ghost, he chooses to cut her into 10 pieces with his own little Zandatsu. But this is not for nanomachine harvesting. This is for what the kids call, us call, aura farming. Or doing cool things because they look cool. Like not looking at explosions or the superhero landing. Aura farming has been a part of superhero media since the beginning, and Blade Knight does it in pretty much every scene of this show. Number 20. First thing I love about this episode is that, again, the show remembers that Shang-Chi lives in the same city where Ant-Man and the Wasp happened. So if zombies came from there, Shang and Katie would be in the middle of Zombie Ground Zero and thus very confused. So this isn't just a story with some characters who we want to see. These are characters who would be in an interesting spot for this zombie apocalypse. Number 21. I love that this tracking shot never lets up. We're always moving forward and bumping into more and more chaos. It adds to the frantic energy of the outbreak. Love moments like this one where Katie and the camera are almost hit by the trolley car. Just felt like one of those fun dark rides like the Spider-Man one at Universal, where every time you turn a new corner, you run into a new wacky supervillain. Number 22. Also really into this giant guy just walking around being giant. I guess if the only people who actually know how Pym particles work get turned into zombies, the Pym particle maintenance suffers, and I guess they get into the water supply or something pretty quickly because it seems like this is all happening very fast. Also, if I saw a big giant roaches the size of a bus on a building, I might as well just end it because this world is beyond saving. Number 23. God, the 10 rings are so cool. The way that you can use them for pretty much everything, including apparently blocking zombie virus. I love getting more time with them because it gives us opportunities to see other creative uses for them. Also, I like that controlling them is a learned skill. Like sure, Shang-Chi, who was taught martial arts since birth and watched his dad use them after his mom's death, like that guy can wield them. But Katie can also use 5 of the 10 rings if she puts her mind to it. I think that's pretty cool. Number 24. This action scene, while clearly inspired by Mad Max, felt more like Guardians era James Gunn than anything else. The way the characters were bonding over music and then the music transitioned into being the soundtrack for their caravan fight reminds me of moments like the space battle in Guardians 3, especially how the fighting doesn't start until the guitar solo. Also, I love that Shang and Katie like to karaoke in any universe. And while Lights is not the deepest Journey cut, it isn't Don't Stop Believing, and I thank the show for that. Number 25. Just in general, this action scene is a lot of fun. Love seeing how everyone deals with their scrolls. Some just like fully get out of their car with a rocket launcher, the death dealer indifferently tosses a few knives, Shang and Katie use the rings as weapons because again, the rings can do pretty much anything, and then this shot where the scroll gets tossed up and then run over by a car. Fun. Number 26. So the Skrulls aren't just after the San Francisco crew. They want their cows. And comic fans know that's a fun idea because of the Skrulls' deep history with cows. You see, in a very old Fantastic Four comic, Reed Richards hypnotized a bunch of Skrulls into thinking they were cows, and then they just were cows for the rest of their life. It wasn't until the 90s when a group of people ate tainted meat harvested from the Skrull cows and got the Skrulls' ability to shapeshift and a deep instinctual hatred of the Skrulls. They were called the Skrull Kill Crew, and since the Skrulls in the MCU ended on such a tough note, this is probably the closest we'll get to the Skrull cow history. I'm fine with that. Number 27. This episode's holy hell that's clever moment comes from the idea that the raft became a floating life raft. Now, I never gave any thought to the idea that the raft is not bolted down like a deep sea oil rig, but of course it's not. If it's in the middle of the ocean, that's too deep. So the idea that someone would steal it and sail it around makes total sense. Number 28. I think it's pretty cool that Zemo and Walker both know about the raft. Zemo because he decoded all the leaked SHIELD files and probably just stumbled upon the raft plans while looking for Bucky, and then Walker because he was a popular army captain who maybe even spent some time working on the raft or something. I like to believe when the outbreak started, they both had the same idea and just booked it to the raft. Maybe Zemo was even transferred there as a prisoner in an effort to keep our biggest troublemakers from being zombified. But in my head, Zemo showed up to the raft a minute before Walker and called the raft, so Walker had to start working for him. Number 29. My favorite individual small touch of the season came in episode 2, and apparently it wasn't originally in the script. According to director Brian Andrews, before they started recording, Simu suggested that Yelena might have a thing for Sean. Apparently he read some chemistry in their interactions and Florence agreed, so they just added this bit where Yelena hit on Sean. And like, yeah, they're both good guys. It's a zombie apocalypse. You're hot, I'm hot, let's enjoy ourselves. It's a great energy for the series to have, and it gives the shippers something to get excited about in the future. Also, really ballsy of Simu to throw that out there. Like, oh hey, I was just reading this script and there's a character I have a couple lines with played by a gorgeous actor, and I think maybe our characters want to have sex, and I think you get the picture. Number 30. So I really enjoy MCU Zemo, and I think Marvel Zombies Zemo was the most Zemo-y we've gotten so far. Because where Civil War and Falcon and the Winter Soldier Zemo were very principled, Zombie Zemo pretends to be a fair leader until his safety is threatened and then he immediately throws whoever under the bus. That's the Zemo I know and love. The one who's willing to stab any back he sees fit. The one who gives a big speech about working together and then blows you out the airlock to feed the fish guy. Number 31. Not necessarily something I love but find interesting. Is Khonshu a comic fan? Like, has he been reading the books for a while? I'm asking because when Blade Knight sees Zombie Namor, he says, Namor. That's not how this version of the character pronounces his name, so where did Blade Knight get that from? And my only explanation is Khonshu, as an all-knowing god, also has access to the comics and has always pronounced the character's name that way, and sometimes he forgets to use the new one. Number 32. Another thing I noticed this episode. This series is populated by many of the book and movie Thunderbolts. You've got Yelena, Alexei, Ghost, and Walker on the movie side, and then you've got Zemo from the original books, Hawkeye from the post-Devil's Reign book, and Shang-Chi from the new books. And then you've got Abomination, who everybody expected to be a Thunderbolt. So I guess what I'm saying is, I know we all wanted a Thunderbolts project with Zemo and Abomination, and it seems like this is as close as we're gonna get. Number 33. Okay, so this is a pretty obvious one, but seeing Kamala explode Namor's head is cool. I love the implication that while Namor's skin is bulletproof from the outside, it is not from the inside, and zombie Namor probably wouldn't know that. And this moment helps to demonstrate that Kamala is going from being pretty powerful to very powerful. Number 34. I appreciate the explanation that zombie Thanos was just sort of dumb, and that in general the zombies are dumb for a little bit before eventually learning their basic skills. So we have a reason why Spider-Man, T'Challa, and Ant-Man's floating head will stand a chance against a Thanos with 5 out of 6 stones. Number 35. Does Spider-Man briefly wield Stormbreaker? Sure, only for like a second, but still, Thor describes the axe as being so powerful that if anyone tried to wield it, their bodies would crumble and their minds would collapse into madness. And yet, Spider-Man is able to hold it for a second, and toss it, and that seems like quite a feat considering how tough those Uru weapons usually are to wield. Number 36. Still sad that Chadwick Boseman's dead. Feels like maybe after Secret Wars, the fan base that wants to wait on the recast will have had enough time and we can move forward with a new T'Challa. I hope that's the case because I'd like to see more live action T'Challa, especially interacting with Reed and the Fantastic Four. Number 37. I don't think we've ever seen this before. When T'Challa is running towards Thanos, he gets down on all fours, and it's an interesting look. I think it plays in animation, but would look silly in live action, so I'm glad they did it here. Number 38. Finally, they acknowledge that there are more than 2 sorcerers in the MCU. Besides Mordo, who might still be alive on zombie Earth, and Pangborn, who is the kind of high-profile target that the zombies immediately neutralized, we've got 3 Multiverse of Madness characters voiced here by their original actors. First, there's Rintrah, the Green Minotaur from the comics / Build-A-Figure that definitely played a bigger role in early versions of the Multiverse of Madness script, voiced by Adam Hewell. Then there was Sarah, the one that Wanda kills in the movie, voiced by Sheila Atim. And lastly, a character known only as London Master, voiced by Daniel Swain. And we'll get to it later, but he gets one of the cooler moments in the big fight. Like in the big picture, I appreciate the acknowledgement that there are other parts of this world that we don't always see. Number 39. Remember how Thor said revels in Age of Ultron?
Yes, of course. Victory should be honored with revels.
Who doesn't love rebels?
Valkyrie says it in this episode. Cool. Number 40. So while Florence Pugh was the voice actor I couldn't believe came back for the first 2 episodes, her spot as most prestigious voice actor got snapped up by Elizabeth Olsen showing up for a Wanda scene. I had just assumed that the zombie Queen Wanda voice in the earlier episode was a sound-alike or something, because surely, I said, they wouldn't bother getting Elizabeth Olsen back for the Marvel Zombies show. She's busy. And while I can see some value in Florence putting in some screen time as Yelena before Doomsday to make her character feel important, Lizzie does not have that problem. There is a case to be made that Wanda is the most beloved character in the MCU, above Tony and Steve and even Peter. The Wanda fans go wild whenever it's hinted that she might show up. And luckily for them, she's one of those characters that never stays dead. So I was very surprised when zombie Wanda turned back into normal Wanda to talk with the team. Number 41. A little detail I found interesting. Khonshu, or Blade Knight, seems to recognize that the food is tainted flesh and he stops Jimmy Woo from eating it. That's nice. But he doesn't do the same for Alexei, and that leads me to believe that he can recognize that Alexei is more of a liability than an asset in this emotionally compromised state and just lets him get turned into a zombie, which is cold, but not that cold for Khonshu. Number 42. When Thor shows up, we hear the very frequently forgotten about Thor theme. And I say frequently forgotten about. I'm sure Marvel Studios remembers it exists, but it hasn't been drilled into the fans' heads like some of the other ones. I was happy to hear it here. Number 43. And then the episode ends with a showdown between a broken Thor and a zombie Wanda, and all I could think while I was watching this was, man, this is gonna really mess with the power scalers. Cause sure, Thor doesn't kill Wanda here, but he's quite weak and he doesn't have a weapon, and Wanda is maybe as powerful as she's ever been in these, but still, I constantly see tweets comparing these two along with usually Carol and Doctor Strange, and while fans usually land on Wanda as the most powerful, I appreciate that he gets some good hits in here before he is inevitably killed. Number 44. It's pretty wild that this is the first time on screen that Kamala Khan has met Spider-Man. It's also interesting because of how similar they are. Like, I get why before Kamala got her powers, she was a big fan of Captain Marvel, but you figure after she gets them, she relates more to Spider-Man than any other hero. Either way, it's nice to see the two interact here. I hope something like that happens in Doomsday or Secret Wars. Number 45. I love that Kamala is such a big fan of the Avengers that she recognizes Scott Lang from just his floating head. Number 46. I think it's real funny that Scott Lang is just a head in a jar. Like, even if you watch the What If episode that leads into this, it doesn't make much sense. Apparently, he got the zombie virus, but then Vision used the Mind Stone to save him, but only his head, so they put that in a jar that keeps him alive and is powered by something? I don't know, man. Also, when I talked to my girlfriend about this, she said she had probably seen the What If episode, but forgot most of it, and this whole Ant-Man head thing must have really felt like it came out of nowhere, 3 episodes into a show that hasn't even hinted that Jarhead guys are a thing. Number 47. Glad they gave Rintrah the leading role in this fight. He adds some visual diversity to the team, and in the comics is not an insignificant part of Doctor Strange's history. Number 48. Infinity Hulk, the version of Bruce Banner enhanced with Kamar-Taj magic, who jumped into the middle of the vibranium core as it was being overloaded by Infinity Stone energy and stopped it from destroying all of reality, is cool. Love the design, all the black, and it's a bold move to give him no pants. Like, I'm sure he could conjure some if he wanted to, but Infinity Hulk is just letting it all hang out. And we know from Ragnarok there is something to see there, but maybe with the Infinity powers you cannot look upon the Hulk's dong without losing your mind. Number 49. I really enjoy Kamala and Sean hanging out and just talking for a bit. I think he's got a great big brother energy, and he seems to really get Kamala. Also, I love the line,
"We have to win one of these eventually, don't we?"
Because, like, yeah, you do, or at least you would assume you do. Number 50. So let's talk about the final fight. Everything Infinity Hulk does looks spectacular. I would not normally be excited for a Dragon Ball Z fight in the middle of my zombie media, but it makes enough sense here. The shot where Infinity Hulk atomizes Zombomination is great. Overall, I love how heavy his hits feel, and I think a lot of that has to do with the sound design. Lots of silence on Hulk until his big moves, and that makes all of his punches that knock out entire waves of zombies feel powerful. Number 51. Love the idea of dropping the telekineal zombies on Hulk. Wanda's really not leaving anything on the table, and I love that in water, they are trouble for Infinity Hulk. Number 52. Cool to see the giant zombies are also still in play. It seems like these zombies are just fueled by chaos magic and quantum energy, otherwise, like, what would they even eat? But seeing them all stomp on Hulk was insane, and the Infinity Thunderclap Hulk uses to cut the giants in half was incredibly cool. Also, I like that throughout this entire series, we are not only seeing our good guys escape danger, we're seeing Wanda recruit a bigger and bigger army for this fight. Number 53. Speaking of that, using zombie Asgardians is another smart move, partially because some of them probably have enchanted weapons that might be able to break through Infinity Hulk's skin, and partially because they've got those warships. And this leads to one of Infinity Hulk's coolest feats where he moves so fast we can't really track him, and he just leaves after images. Number 54. Speaking of that, I love this shot. Following one soldier who's jumping off the boat. I don't know what it reminds me of, but it reminds me of something, and it's cool. Number 55. Very cool to see Kamala really go for it here. Her giant scythe cuts a bunch of heads off. That is very cool. Number 56. This was in one of the trailers, so everybody knows how awesome it is, but man, Spider-Man pulling all the heads off a bunch of zombies all at once is an all-time Spider-Man move that's framed really well. I love the slow motion. It just looks great. Number 57. We get a great couple of moments showing off London Master using his sword to do things we've never seen a sorcerer do before. He manages to cut Hawkeye in half and explodes an entire field of zombies with some sort of sword-based incantation. I was curious because the show isn't explicit as to which sword the London Master is using. He doesn't even get a name, so like, why would his sword? But it would appear that the sword is a relic, like the Wand of Watum or the Staff of the Living Tribunal, an item imbued with magical energy. So I went through all the Marvel swords that this could be, and I landed on 2. First one. Since this sword appears to be the same kind of rapier, see you in the comments, fencing jackals, I went looking for other swords in the MCU with that design, and the one I landed on is Fandrel's sword, Fimbuldragr. Not exactly the same looking, but similar. Maybe it just got translated weird into animation. And this sword in Marvel Comics is also sometimes known as the Whispering Blade, which is interesting because that's kind of how the London Master does the incantation that explodes all the zombies' head by like whispering into the sword. And we don't know what happened to that sword after Fandrel died. Maybe some Asgardians managed to grab it before the planet exploded. Who knows? And if they did, it could have made its way to Strange and Kamar-Taj. Maybe. Crazier things have happened. Now, this sword is not traditionally magic in the comics, but it could be imbued with magic. Second one. This one does not exist in the MCU yet, but is known in the comics as the Sword of Light. Right off the bat, not a rapier, so that's a point against it. But point 4, this one is magical and associated with British characters like the Black Knight. And since the MCU Black Knight uses the Ebony Blade, and barely uses that, but still, he's got his own sword, so if the Sword of Light exists in universe, it's somewhere else. And the fun fact I learned about the Sword of Light is it exists in Scottish and Celtic myth, and is known as, good luck with this one me, Clive Solus. It's a magical sword from Irish and Scottish Gaelic folklore, and just the name Sword of Light lines up with what the sword in Marvel Zombies does. It is used to create beams of light that cut through zombies. So this is my guess as to which sword he has. Number 58. There are so many cool moments in this fight. I love to see Hank and Janet be in trouble. They're almost as dangerous as Ghost, maybe worse because they can do a lot of damage when giant, but then immediately shift to being tiny and dodge almost all attacks. We see Shang-Chi shoot some rings at Hank, who shrinks down and runs on the inside of the rings like they're a jungle gym. Love it. Also love the sound design here. Number 59. I like the idea that Spidey is able to immediately incapacitate a giant man, since this Spider-Man also did a number on Scott Lang in the airport fight, so he knows to go up to the helmet and Ratatouille the Hank zombie. Number 60. Love this uppercut where Kamala really leans into the embiggening. I could be wrong, but I think this is the biggest we've seen Kamala stretch one of her limbs, and I like the implication that this is something she can do under really extreme circumstances. Number 61. So Valkyrie sacrifices herself to save Kamala from being crushed when the Wasp takes Kamala by surprise, but then, in one of the grosser moments of the series, so I won't show it here, Valkyrie tunnels through the inside of Janet's arm and we can see the veins and muscle pop out of exposed zombie wounds, and Valkyrie makes it to the head and kills Janet. Super cool. I don't know how Valkyrie comes out of this without being a zombie because of how much zombie stuff she got exposed to, but still a very cool moment. Number 62. Then we've got Zombie Thor. This fight is stunning. Thor absolutely vaporizing the Sorcerers and Blade Knight. Love the moment when he breathes magical energy, I guess, on Hulk. And the move Hulk does to kill Zombie Thor is so cool, like a finisher right out of a fighting game. Number 63, and then last two things here. First, I like that Riri survived. Between her serum and whatever Vision used the Mind Stone to do to Scott, I like that we have some ways out of this. I like the implication that this world can be saved. Number 64. So originally, I did not love the cliffhanger ending because I was worried that this would be another cliffhanger that never gets resolved. And also, like, what is even happening here? It seemed like Kamala teamed up with Wanda and Wanda fully rewrote reality, but this would suggest that Wanda made a new hex like in Westview, but the rules of this hex feel very different. It acts less like actual warped reality and more like a hologram over the real world. I don't know. But apparently, the response to Marvel Zombies has been pretty positive, and it seems like Marvel might actually make a second season that resolves this cliffhanger properly, and that's great. And those are the 64 things I liked or at least found interesting about Marvel Zombies. Only positive stuff, no nitpicks. Okay, one nitpick. Where are all the beards? Like, Alexi has one, the London Master has one, but they will just usually have beards. What about Blade Knight, or Spider-Man, or Ant-Man's head in a jar? Do they shave? I guess Blade Knight probably uses his sword, which seems dangerous even if you have an assist from the least helpful god in the MCU besides Zeus, most of the Loki variants, this guy, and of course Odin most of the time. But Spider-Man? I feel like he's old enough to shave. By 2023 with no snap, he's at least college-aged. And you may be saying, well, Nando, we know Kamartaj has a room where you shave using one of those complicated razors with tons of unnecessary blades. They must use that. Sure, but also that was back in 2016 or whenever the beginning of Doctor Strange takes place. It's unclear because it seems like some time passes between when he gets to Kamartaj and when he fights Caecilius. Like, he probably needed to train for more than a year to be the Sorcerer Supreme, right? And I know he's not perfect, but still, feels like going from Zero to Doctor Strange feels like it should take longer than it's been since the third Venom movie came out. Remember that? That was a year ago. Where was I? Oh, right. It has been almost a decade since the first Doctor Strange movie came out, and if they had to do one of those sexy shaving scenes now, I am positive he would be using a razor like the one made by this video's sponsor, Henson Shaving. Oh, Henson Shaving is one of my favorite sponsors I've ever had on the channel, and only because like this is a product I use every time I shave. I've been using it for at least 3 years. My first Henson shaving spot was on my She-Hulk video, I think. This is the razor, is the one I've been using the whole time. I know what you're thinking, by the way. You're like, oh wait, you said you use a razor, but you have like stubble and stuff. It's part of the look. But you gotta trim it. You gotta make sure that you have the right amount of stubble, which is complicated, I'll be honest. And right now, I don't. But here's what I'm gonna do. This is what my neck looks like right now. I'm gonna jump off. I'm gonna shave using my Henson razor, and I'm gonna come back and you're gonna see a difference. It's not going to be an enormous difference, but just going to be a difference. It's going to be a little cleaner. That's kind of what I'm going for. All right, so I'm going to grab this. I'm going to clean up. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. I just used this razor to shave. I shaved this area of my neck here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit in here. Feels great. Looks great. This thing's incredibly easy to use. It's very simple. All you have to do is get the razor blades in. You twist this off. It comes off. Put the razor in. You twist it back in. You can kind of see the shape. It like bends the razor down. It's at a 30-degree angle. Makes it really easy to use. You got the razor on both sides. Honestly, like, this is an incredibly simple thing to tell you guys about. It's almost too simple because I use it and I like it. Besides that, like, it looks cool. Gets wet all the time. Looks great. Like, it hasn't rusted or anything like that. They have different colors. I'm fine with this one. Some of the other ones look pretty cool. The safety razor, that's what these are called, the safety razor. It's made of aluminum. There's no plastic. It's not bad for the environment. Even the packaging, there's no plastic in the packaging. And the blades are recyclable. I got to the end of this, and now I'm thinking, why did I not just talk about the character Blade? Because this is a razor. Razor has blades. Listen, we all went on this journey together. We're here now. I already did the shaving thing, so I can't start over again. Maybe next time we'll talk about Blade. But again, like, unless he's using his big giant sword to cut it, he has to have a razor somewhere. And it would be dumb of him to use one of the razors that requires like big, silly plastic things that connect it. Like, you would have to carry those around, or you would have to find them. Whereas if you had one of these Henson razors and like 100 blades, throw that in a backpack. It won't take up that much space. Speaking of 100 blades, if you go to hensonshaving.com/Nando, Nando, and use the code Nando at checkout, again, Nando, you get 100 free blades. Again, I'm talking about blades that go in the razor, not Mahershala Ali, or in this case, Todd Williams. And there's a lot of people playing Blade currently, and none of them are fighting vampires, which is something that someone pointed out on the internet recently, which is quite a bummer. You get 100 free blades with your purchase. Those are going to last you a very long time, and this is going to last you like forever. I've had it for like 3 years. It's cool, easy to travel with. I cannot say enough good things about Henson Shaving. Go check out their website. Go to hensonshaving.com/Nando. It's a real good razor. As always, thank you to everybody who continues to support the channel on Patreon. Thank you to everybody who listens to my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, and everybody that follows me on social media. I'm Nando V Movies everywhere. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.